Have you ever met someone who seemed perfect on the outside? They were calm, polite, maybe even generous. And yet, something about them made you feel uneasy, but you couldn't quite explain why. It's strange, isn't it? We're trained to think that danger looks loud, like anger, shouting, or cruelty. But what if the real danger hides behind a smile? What if the people we should watch most closely are the ones who seem too composed, too kind, too in control? Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, believed exactly that. He uncovered a hidden danger in human behavior that most people completely miss. A danger that doesn't come from overt hostility, but from what lies beneath the surface of those who seem completely good. Today, we're going to explore what Jung called the most dangerous sign in a person, and by the end of this journey, you might begin to see others and even yourself in a profoundly different light. Let's begin this path of insight and soul awakening. To understand Jung's warning, we have to begin with how he viewed the human mind. Jung believed that each of us wears a mask, which he called the persona. It's the part we show the world, the version of ourselves we think is acceptable, likable, or admirable. This mask helps us function in society, but it's not the whole story. Beneath the mask lies the unconscious mind, a deep reservoir of instincts, raw emotion, memories, and symbols that shape our experience without us even knowing. It holds our hidden motives, our fears, and also the parts of ourselves we've rejected. One of the most powerful and mysterious forces in this unconscious realm is something Jung called the shadow. The shadow isn't just our dark side. It's a collection of everything in us that we've disowned. Not because it's evil, but because it didn't fit the image of who we thought we were supposed to be. Understanding this is a key to understanding the most dangerous sign in a person. Because what we push away doesn't disappear. It waits, and it acts in ways we often don't see, until it's too late. So, how does the shadow form? It begins in childhood. As we grow up, we learn, sometimes silently, sometimes harshly, what parts of us are lovable and what parts are not. We're told to be polite, not angry, to be quiet, not assertive, to please others, not to be selfish. And so, little by little, we start pushing away parts of ourselves. Maybe you were told that crying was weak, so you buried your vulnerability. Or maybe your ambition was called selfish, so you silenced your drive. These rejected pieces become the shadow. But here's the important part. The shadow doesn't go away. It doesn't vanish just because we ignore it. Instead, it moves underground into the unconscious. And from there, it begins to influence us. Quietly, powerfully. It shapes our emotions, our relationships, even our decisions. It may show up as envy, anxiety, insecurity, or the sudden anger we don't know where it came from. And if we never become aware of it, it starts living our life for us, without us even realizing it. Jung once said, "What is not made conscious will be lived out as fate." It's a haunting idea. When we ignore the shadow, we don't escape it. We simply give it more power. It starts to show itself through dreams, fears, addictions, compulsions, or painful patterns that seem to repeat over and over again. And it's not just about personal suffering. A shadow that's denied too long becomes distorted. It begins to find twisted ways to express itself. A kind person might lash out suddenly and not understand why. A calm person might develop inner rage that they don't know how to process. Someone who seems generous might secretly crave control and use kindness as a disguise. The longer we run from these hidden parts of ourselves, the more they rebel. The more we try to stay good by ignoring our flaws, the more likely we are to hurt others without even knowing we're doing it. This is where the danger begins to take form, not in the presence of darkness, but in the denial of it. Someone who has never faced their shadow may seem almost perfect. They're often calm, composed, moral, maybe even spiritually aware. But inside, there's a storm they've learned to suppress. The gap between who they appear to be and what they're actually feeling creates deep inner tension. That tension needs a release. So it leaks out not through loud explosions, but through subtle behaviors. A sarcastic comment, a passive-aggressive jab, an overly controlling gesture that's disguised as concern. Or worse, a cruel act masked as tough love. They might not even realize what they're doing. In their mind, they're helping, they're protecting, but those around them feel the sting, the confusion, the subtle manipulation. This is how danger wears a mask. Because when someone believes they are only good, they lose the ability to see the harm they cause. And that blindness can be devastating. Carl Jung warned us, the truly dangerous person is not the openly angry one, not the one who shows their flaws, who admits to making mistakes. The dangerous person is the one who thinks they have none. When someone believes they are completely good, always kind, always moral, they stop questioning themselves. They lose the capacity for self-reflection. And without that, there's no growth, no accountability, no humility. They can manipulate others, but call it guidance. They can control people, but claim it's for their own good. They can cause harm, deeply, silently, and still believe they're acting out of love. This illusion of righteousness makes them immune to criticism. If something goes wrong, it's never their fault. If someone gets hurt, it's because they needed to learn a lesson. This is what makes moral superiority so dangerous. It's not just arrogance. It's a denial of the shadow. And when the shadow is denied, it doesn't disappear. It grows. It finds darker, more deceptive ways to express itself, often leaving a trail of confusion, pain, and emotional damage. The person themselves, they might never know they're the cause, because they've wrapped themselves in the illusion of being good. That illusion is not just a psychological problem. It's a spiritual blindness, a refusal to look within, a refusal to evolve. So, what is the most dangerous sign in a person? According to Carl Jung, it's this: the complete lack of shadow awareness. When someone refuses to see that they have a dark side, that they're capable of anger, jealousy, manipulation, or harm, they become truly unpredictable. It's not the presence of darkness that makes someone dangerous. It's the denial of it. People who are aware of their flaws tend to be more careful. They understand the damage they could cause, so they take responsibility. They reflect. They grow. But those who believe they are incapable of wrongdoing become blind to themselves. They justify everything, rationalize anything, and they often leave others feeling hurt, confused, and even gaslit, never understanding why. This kind of person doesn't just create emotional wounds. They rewrite reality. They make others question their own instincts, their own memories, even their own worth. And yet, they may still smile, still say the right things, still appears kind, calm, and spiritual. That's why this warning matters, because a lack of shadow awareness is more than a psychological issue. It's a fracture in the soul. In the end, it's not the shadow that makes us dangerous. It's the refusal to face it. The people who acknowledge their darkness, their capacity to hurt, their flaws, their contradictions, are often the most trustworthy. Why? Because they're awake. They're humble. They're aware of the choices they make and the impact they have. So the next time you meet someone who insists they are always right, always good, always kind, pause and ask yourself, what are they not seeing in themselves? That question might just protect you. And perhaps even more importantly, ask yourself, am I seeing my own shadow clearly? The truth may not always be comfortable, but it's the first step toward real integrity, inner peace, and soul evolution.